radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Welcome, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Tuesday, June 9th, 2020. 161 days into the new year. Only 205 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? All right. What a week here on Fade to Black. What a week. That's right. Continuing tonight, Del Bigtree. Del Bigtree is here. Producer of the movie Vaxxed. That's right. Tonight, we're going to talk a little vaccine. Yeah, man. Tomorrow night, right here, Bruce R. Fenton. He's got a new book out, Hybrid Humans. Yep. Well, it's about hybrid humans. So that's tomorrow night with Bruce R. Fenton. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. What a great week. Great show last night. Nadine Lalich, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing conversation. Really looking forward to Del Bigtree tonight. So much in the news and on our minds. And more on that in just a bit. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's right, at JChurchRadio. Start it right there. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. More on Twitter and social media in just a bit. Yep. Any questions or comments? Hashtag F2BQ. We have two chat rooms open, one over at Spreaker right here, one over at KGRA The Planet. All right. Okay. Everybody over on YouTube, what is up? Twitter. All the live streaming. I know that we're doing Twitch. I asked last night, anybody on Twitch that is watching, 2 or 3 people over there. Twitch is gamers, right? Gamers watching gamers, which I'm sure is pretty cool. But yeah, so we're broadcasting over on Twitch. And if anybody's over on Twitch, jump over on Twitter really quick at JChurch Radio. Let me know. Let me know. I have no idea. I think it's very cool, though. I think it's very cool. Can you imagine just goofing around on Fade to Black? What? Somebody asked me about No Man's Sky, if we're still playing. We are. No Man's Sky is pretty bleeping amazing. So anyway, yeah, we love gaming. We're still... Diablo 3, we finished the game, months ago, and there's so much more to do in Diablo 3, and so we're out there collecting our Paragon points and jumping into the rifts constantly and all the bonus play. So that's what we're doing now. But can't stop Diablo 3. Diablo 3 is, man, that is, man, that is opium for the masses right there, Diablo 3. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. I want you to get your immune system boosted. I'm going to be talking about this tonight for sure. I want you to get your immune system boosted, and the best place, is getthetea.com. And go to getthetea.com, head to the specials page, get the immune package, which I just got, and everything over $50, use the promo code, $50, right? You get $50 with the promo code. Over $50, you get free shipping. And I have been just did it right before the show tonight. I should do it live on the air. I took my red vinegar capsules, and you open up that, smell that. It's red vinegar capsules. No doubt. I want you to check out all of that over at getthetea.com. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv, Billy Carson's new internet TV network that everybody is talking about. You can go and check it out for yourself, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. And when you go and get signed up, three-day trial membership to go and check out everything that Billy Carson has got going on over there with his new internet TV network. And Billy's taking things to the next level. He really is for this community, so go and check it out. River Moon Coffee, the best. Oh, man. I need it today. RiverMoonCoffee.com, and, of course, their Amazon store. We've got two blends. Fade to Black blend, Game Changer blend. Go and check them both out. And the promo codes are over in the banners at jimmychurchradio.com. Let's get straight to the breaking news. Lots to talk about. Resurfaced old tweets posted by actor Hartley Sawyer prior to joining the CW series The Flash have resulted in him being fired. You gotta watch what you do these days. The internet never forgets. Last week, actress Sky Jackson tweeted screen grabs of several of Sawyer's purported tweets, writing, "Hartley Sawyer, you've been exposed." He played the role of Ralph Dibny, who was the superhero elongated man on The Flash. Well, Sawyer's Twitter account has since been deleted. You've got to watch it. You've got to watch it. Again, more on this in just a minute. Las Vegas was hopping with huge crowds for their reopening weekend as Sin City returned after more than 2 months of a shutdown due to the public health concerns surrounding the coronavirus pandemic. Hotels and attractions were far busier than expected, and it prompted many local resort companies to accelerate plans to open more of their properties over the coming weeks. There are rumors. Now, I know MGM is doing this. There are rumors that you can't smoke anymore in a casino. No vaping. Yeah, no vaping, no smoking in the casinos. What happened? What happened to Anything Goes in Vegas? Yep, but I'm very happy. AMC Theaters, the world's largest movie theater owner, announced today that it is planning to reopen its 1,000 theaters around the world next month. The chain, which closed all of its locations March 17th because of the coronavirus pandemic, said in its first quarter earnings report today that it expects to be fully open globally in July, but did not provide specific dates. Excited about that, too. Now, I've heard different things. Like there's going to be 6 seats in between everybody, right? You can sit as a couple, right? And then 6 seats. Now, what does that happen? What happens in front of you? So I guess it's staggered. So you'll have 6 empty seats in front of you. And what does that do for the theater? How many tickets can they possibly sell? I don't know. That's just what I've heard. Makes sense, but there you go. They are opening up in July. Excited about that. Rita said last night on the news about all of this, she goes, why would we go to a theater anymore? Let's just get everything at home. And she's right. She's right. I don't want to say it because I love going to the movies. I do. There's something about it. There's something about junk food and popcorn and a movie and the gallon Slurpees. Man, there's something about that black cherry Slurpee, right? I like the Coke Slurpee too as well. Just getting jacked up on sugar and just junk food and watching a movie on the big screen. But has the public adapted? Has DNA been modified? Well, check this out. IBM, this was announced today. IBM will no longer offer or develop facial recognition software in pursuit of racial justice reform. IBM's CEO, Arvind Krishna, told Congress yesterday that the tech firm will no longer offer, develop, or research facial recognition technology as it strongly opposes the technology's use for mass surveillance, racial profiling, violations of basic human rights, and freedom. That IBM firmly opposes the use of facial recognition technology inconsistent with the firm's principles of trust and transparency, which promotes responsible and transparent use of AI and transformative innovations. That is a crazy press release. That's all I've got. I'm not going to say anything else except for this next breaking news story. You're not going to believe this. Because it appears that Netflix now owns the trademark and rights to Space Force. That's right. Around the globe, the streaming giant has outmaneuvered the United States government to secure trademark rights to Space Force in Europe, in Australia, in Mexico, and elsewhere. Meanwhile, the Air Force merely owns a pending application for registration inside the United States based on an intent to use. Crazy, right? Meaning that the feds have gotten a place in line, but no confirmed trademark rights so far. And Netflix is ahead of them on that list. What will virtually ensure that Netflix will own the trademark in the U.S. is that the government didn't challenge anything before the May 29th premiere. Game, set, match. All right, the StarWorks UFOs and Artificial Intelligence Conference in Laughlin, Nevada, November 5th through the 8th is still on, and it's bigger and better than ever before. We're going to be there. Fade to Black's going to be there, of course. The Fade to Black crew. We're doing 2 nights of Sky Watches on Thursday the 5th and Friday the 6th. Grant Cameron's going to be there. Grant Cameron's going to come and hang out at that Sky Watch. Maybe both nights. I want to get James Fox out there, too. I really do. Paul Hynek's going to be there, Sid Goldberg. So I want you to go right now to StarWorksUSA.com for tickets and info. Coming up next for us is Disclosure Fest at the historic Los Angeles Park in downtown Los Angeles, California. And it's on my birthday. So come and celebrate with us. Go to disclosurefest.org for tickets and info. It's a free event. That's right, 20,000 people. 20,000 people. It's going to be great. Mass meditation. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox today is 59 years old. Johnny Depp today, 57. And Natalie Portman is 39. Yeah. I was like, what? Yeah, she is just 39 years old. I realize 39 is young, and I always picture Natalie much younger because of Star Wars and other things. But, man, kind of growing up, but now she's such an adult. I was kind of mystified by that. But yeah, Natalie Portman today, 39 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today is the one and only John Lord. Yeah. 1941 to 2012, died at the age of 71. In 1968, John created Deep Purple and changed the world forever. Think about it. The albums Machine Head, Made in Japan, Burn, Stormbringer. Songs like Highway Star, Burn, Space Truckin', Smoke on the Water, Woman from Tokyo. How about Perfect Strangers, right? How about Knocking at Your Back Door? Those are the things that Metal Dreams are made of, and we can thank John Lord for it all. Happy birthday, John. On this day in history, 1856, that's right, 497 Mormon handcart pioneers depart Iowa and head west for Salt Lake City. They carried all of their goods, 500 pounds apiece, in about 100 two-wheeled handcarts. No horses, no nothing. They pushed that stuff 1,000 miles to the west. Insane. Fader fact. I posted this article today. This is your Fader fact. In case you need it vetted, I posted the article. I wanted to make sure that everybody could read it. Because in 2012, Peter Turchin, a Russian-American scientist, predicted that 2020 would be a peak of violence in America based on historical data. And that is a fact. Tonight, very special guest Del Bigtree is here. We're going to be talking vaccines. Tomorrow night, Bruce R. Fenton joins us. We'll be talking about the hybrid humid the hybrid humid. That's pretty accurate. Hybrid humans tomorrow night on the show. Thursday night is another Fader night with open lines all night long. All right, now I got something to say. River Moon Coffee. Yeah, rivermooncoffee.com. All right. At what point in my life am I entitled to just post and say crazy, insane stuff? That's right. You know what I'm saying, right? Just reply and comment to whatever, right? Just go off the rails. When do I get the unlimited hall pass? Now, look, I've done my absolute best to behave. There is virtually nothing out there for anyone to attack me about. And the reason is very simple. I've never said, I've never posted, I've never commented, replied, or otherwise said anything about anything. I haven't. Well, within reason, of course, because I comment about guitars and post and food and movies and stuff all the time. And I post the things that make me happy and smile. I have nothing in my email that can be exploited. If it's ever hacked, nobody's going to find a thing. There's nothing there. And there's nothing deleted to be found later on some hard drive. No, it doesn't exist. No, it's just not there in the first place. So today I find it harder and harder to resist replying. That's right. Posting, tweeting. Yeah. It's getting harder and harder. The things that are in my head, I just, I'm right there. But don't worry. I'm not about to slip up and ruin your rosy view of yours truly. Maybe. But the social media landscape makes it very difficult for me to behave. The psychological warfare that has been implemented on all of the social media platforms is very, very effective. And it works on me too. I have been tempted so much over the last month to just go off the rails on everyone, from the individual all the way up to the biggest media talking heads. The only thing that keeps me in check is this. If I do it, then I become one of them. Yeah. And that's what really scares me. You see, when we first started Fade to Black, in the very beginning, I had a conversation with Rita and a couple of people that were helping us at the time, and I said this. I said, no matter what the situation, without exception, we stay professional. That's right. We don't reply, we don't state, we don't comment or respond to anything. We will be different. People are going to attack us. They're going to say things. They'll even make up things. They'll state lies as facts. And there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do. Trying to defend or respond will only give others a chance to continue the drama. Right? And then you get the reply to the reply to the reply. Well, that's it. We're not going to do it. And for the most part, without exception, we've absolutely lived by this code of conduct. Now, we expanded this official stance throughout all of social media. Sure, there have been rare cases where I've strayed just a bit. Yeah, it's out there. But you can count all of that on one hand. And you could probably use just two fingers. You pick which ones. I think an established record of 7 years of good behavior stands for something. It's been tough and at times difficult. It's hard to run clean. We know it's much easier to make a left turn and go down the wrong road and say and do bad things. That's the easy way of life. It's much harder to always do the right thing. And we know this. It's a fact. So what's to stop me from creating a few fake accounts and just going off? Now, to be honest, the thought has crossed my mind a few times, but what would be the fun in that? I know that everybody does it, but it doesn't make it right. And plus, I would definitely want everyone to know that it's me posting. I want everybody to know it's the real me that has just lost his marbles and all moral character. There's a lot of joy in that. But there is one major point that keeps me on the right side of the fence. Most of the crazy posts out there are by accounts that are not real. Okay? I have seen the post in the news by major outlets, you know, where you can comment at the end of an article, right? And you've all seen that. And and I read the article and I'll scroll down to see what everybody's saying, because these comments are there for one reason: to create flames. Yeah. And then I just start to look at these accounts a little bit closer, because I've seen the exact same thing on Twitter and Facebook. And when you see the flaming stuff, just click on the account, because you'll usually find other drama in their feed. But you're not going to see anything about their family, personal photos, things about life and jobs, things that make them real. You only see drama. These are 100% fake accounts. It's just the way it is, and it's everywhere. And the problem is that it works. Most people don't click on an account. They just take the bait. And it's up to a level that when you go, how do I explain it? When you go up and you go to verified accounts of media people, or you go to the verified accounts of news outlets and corporations, when you go up a level or two, right, who are posting this stuff, you start to see that they are publishing total and absolute BS. And that's what's going on today. And in those threads, you also see the fake accounts that throw more fuel on the fire. It's gotten totally out of control. And everybody seems to be on it. It's everywhere today. Look, every morning, I do the same thing that pretty much all of you do. I wake up, I swing my feet around to the floor, and I slide them into my slippers. I grab a bottle of water on my nightstand, and I take a swig. Stretch my arms, right? And then I pick up my cell phone, sitting on the edge of my bed, and I just click on the Twitter feed to make sure that the world didn't blow up overnight. So I check that, and Twitter still works, so the planet is still a go. So check that, right? We're good. It's like, whew, okay. And then I start scrolling, and by the time I make it downstairs for my first cup of coffee, my blood is boiling. And it's the same thing for everybody, not only in the United States, but around the world. And they may not click on Twitter. Maybe it's CNN, maybe it's the BBC, maybe it's Fox, maybe it's Facebook, but the results are the same. And then the posts, the replies, and the comments start rolling in for everyone except me. I don't get to enjoy the madness. I have to behave. My days are just spent blocking, muting, and staying silent. But you have to ask yourself, for how much longer? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure how many times Rita can say, Jimmy, don't do it. These are your rules. Don't do it, church. Right? So now you know. All right? It's very simple. If you see something from me on social media that doesn't seem quite right, just a little bit nuts, it's because I could no longer resist the temptation of drilling a doofus with my keyboard. But don't worry. It'll just be a momentary lapse of reason. Seriously. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Del Bigtree. So you stay right there. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio, on the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
OMG! People are jumping on board to the Life Change Tea Regiment. Brew, steep, and drink for a gentle, taste-great cleanse. It's changing how they feel. See what everybody's talking about. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Life Change Tea aids in digestive slowdown and helps people get moving down a healthy path. We won't make claims. We'll just let you decide. Experience is much better than a commercial anyway. If you want results, log on to getthetea.com and purchase your super strength cleansing tea. You won't be disappointed. And if you're looking for some mind-body suggestions, go to YouTube and punch in the search bar Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. Put power into your health now. So, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com for super strength tea. And YouTube, Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now for valuable suggestions. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show. On the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Del Bigtree joins us. Tomorrow night, Bruce R. Fenton. Thursday night, of course, Fader night with open lines all night long. Tonight, our guest is Del Bigtree, CEO of Informed Consent Action Network, who produced the film Vaxxed, From Cover-Up to Catastrophe. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the new coronavirus vaccine. That's right. And what it's going to mean to billions of people on planet Earth. Del was an Emmy Award-winning producer on the daytime talk show The Doctors for 6 years. With a background both as a filmmaker and an investigative medical journalist, he's best known for combining visually impactful imagery, raw emotional interviews, and unbiased investigative research into stories that push the envelope of daytime television. Some of his most thought-provoking episodes include a rare televised debate between Monsanto's head of toxicology, Dr. Donna Farmer, and GMO activist Jeffrey Smith. Yeah, that's right. History. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Del Bigtree. Del, how are you,
Jimmy.
man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
It's so good to hear your voice, and I don't even know where to start right now, Del. I'm only laughing because the world has tipped upside down. And you're probably the cause. So how do you feel?
I'm glad you just, came right out and said it. Let's not beat around the bush. You're not the first person to actually, throw that idea out there that we've been really pushing and poking the bear, as it would, when we look at the medical establishment. And they've certainly reacted, right? I mean, we know what's going on here. Honestly, you and I could probably meet every night and have 2 more hours of information. So I don't even understand. Whatever you want to cover, I'm sure we've got plenty to talk about because the world has gone absolutely mad. I was just watching today, as you watch the news, like I was watching, a police department in New York and the head of the union saying, the New York City needs police. I was like, am I watching a cartoon?
I know,
is
right?
This Batman?
Yes,
is
yes.
this really happening?
Yes.
Am I looking at New York City thinking about not having cops? I mean, could you even, if I told you that was going to happen 2 days ago, I'd be like, all right, Del, I know things are crazy, but let's be real.
Yeah, it's like Marvel Comics come to life, Right. That's exactly what it's like.
I was waiting for someone. I was waiting for the guy who was like saying on television to hear a lone voice out in the audience go, "But we've got Batman."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, what are people counting on? Yeah. I know. Well, and there's. I'm going to make just a comment. Last year. It was last year. I was around somebody that I know that is a special needs teacher. Okay, right? Mm-hmm. And I just happened to say, hey, have you seen the movie Vaxxed? And I'm going to tell you that her head nearly spun off her shoulders in anger. And the reaction was kind of to be expected, right? Because you have all the propaganda and everything out there from Big Pharma, right? And that's what you're fighting. And so anybody that is in that industry, anybody that is a teacher or a caregiver or any of that, is going to be reading and being told everything from the other side of the fence, right? They're not running out there watching the movie Vaxxed, or they're not investigating.
My assumption by their reaction is she hadn't watched it, right?
Right. No, not, and would not.
Wouldn't, but you wouldn't have that reaction had you actually watched it, and that's what's incredible about it, right?
Yeah.
That she has this visceral opinion about something that I don't understand. Does she not feel that she has a mind strong enough to overcome whatever potential mind control could be happening? Like, what keeps somebody that works in an industry where probably half of their own clients are saying, my God, that movie really told my story? What makes a person say, I will refuse to look at what was said in that film? I'm going to go ahead and read everybody else's judgment, and I'm going to yell at somebody with zero information whatsoever. Like, you've got nothing to yell about except an idea. You know, you can yell, please yell if you've seen the film and you have problems with it, but to yell about something you know zero about and don't even have the integrity or the inner strength to say, hey, I can watch anybody's point of view and at least, want to understand where they're coming from. It's just amazing. And it just shows it's easy to know that reaction was not going to be, you weren't going to end that sentence with, well, she watched it and had problems, because I've never met that person. Well, you can't watch the film and start screaming at me.
Well, that's right. But this is the thing. Not to stay on an individual platform here. I know this person personally. Very smart, very grounded, intelligent, who I enjoy their company, right? But her reaction is a universal reaction, right? From those workers and from that side of the fence. The propaganda is real, right? Yeah. The intention from Big Pharma is real, and they are not going to back down on this, are they?
Well, no. And what's incredible, though, is that, though that side of the fence, as you referred to it, medical establishment do tend to have an issue. What right before all of this COVID-19 stuff hit last December, there was a meeting by the WHO held in Geneva, Switzerland, and the entire 3-day conference was based on how to stop vaccine hesitancy. It's incredible. We did a whole show on it because there was actually video cameras rolling inside, and you get to see them admit everything I've been saying and speculating on for the last 3 years. They actually admit it. And at a certain point, things like one of the head psychologists of the scientists said, we have to admit that one of our biggest problems that we are now starting to lose the confidence of our front line of defense, which is doctors, she said. Doctors are beginning to question vaccines. And if we lose them, we lose this altogether. She was really panicked about it. And she said, and part of the problem is doctors are not equipped to be able to answer the question that these parents are now bringing regarding vaccines. And she said, and we know that that's an issue because we all have to admit, as we well know, you're lucky as a nurse or a doctor if you had more than a half a day education on vaccines. I'm quoting a top WHO scientist saying that. And that's what your friend's problem is. She got a half a day education, and all that said was propaganda that the only thing you need to know about vaccines vaccines is the greatest invention of the 20th century. We're only alive because of them. And if anybody tells you they're against them, then you try to talk them into it by saying, no, they're the greatest invention of the 20th century. If that doesn't work, then kick them out of your practice. And that's how deep the understanding goes.
Well, we just had, I want to speak specifically about the movie Vaxxed here, for those that haven't seen it. Oh, by the way, can I get you to talk closer to your microphone? We're sure. Getting your cavernous.
I do have a very big living room. Let me see if I can get into a
much better.
Have a high ceiling.
Yes. Okay. So.
Better?
Okay. Yeah. There you go. There you go. We just had on Linda Moulton Howe on the show a couple of weeks ago, and speaking about the coronavirus vaccine, and I'm not going to speak for her, but her position was, in a basic sense, that coronavirus is real, and the vaccine is something that is going to be needed, and it's I want to say this correctly because I don't want to put words in her mouth, that the vaccine is more important than not. And my reaction was, that's fine, but it can't be mandatory. It can't be mandatory. There needs to be an option there to opt out, to say no to it. I don't want to have something on my driver's license or my passport saying that I've taken the coronavirus so I can travel or so I can have a job or so I can drive my car. Mm-hmm. That's something that I'm afraid of. And just like MMR, and many states, almost all of the states, except for just a handful, that require this for children just to be able to go to school, right? Where it's a mandatory situation where our hands are tied, right? Do you foresee something like that coming up with coronavirus? And have you gotten any headway in MMR with, like enrollment in schools and being able to opt out?
Well, I mean, when we talk about coronavirus, you don't have to be a seer or a psychic. They're telling you on the television, we're not going to let your life get back to normal until we have this mythological life-saving product.
Right.
I call it mythological because at the current moment that we are speaking, this thing does not exist on the planet Earth. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen scientists depending on a dream and a hope, which is what is happening. Science is based on facts and what is in your hands and what is possible. And certainly public policy needs to be based on what is in your hands. I think back to when I was a child growing up, my parents used to always say, don't count your chickens before they hatch, right? Like that was something I think we all heard. My dad had this saying, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush, meaning it's okay to dream. But if you're going to make life decisions, why don't you stick to what you actually have in your hands that you can work with, not base your life decisions on a hope that something's going to work out in the future, some miracle will happen. And that is what our entire scientific establishment and our public policymakers, not just in America, but around the world, are doing. We are literally hearing from intelligent leaders that we elected, adults, tell us that our plan is based on something that does not exist. That's crazy to me. That means we are really, at this point, our nation and the world is being run by the mind of a second grader? When do you stop dreaming and basing your choices on dreams? I mean, it's really amazing to me. And so is there going to be a discussion about a forced coronavirus vaccine? Absolutely. Bill Gates is telling you there is. He is telling you he wants a vaccine program that 7.5 billion people will have to use. That's the whole goal. And whether or not coronavirus is really, as the person you're talking about, is a necessary vaccine or where it was at, they don't care. And that's obvious because the numbers are crashing down around them. And it certainly isn't the life-threatening issue we were told it was. They only missed by, 1,200%, or it's incredible how far off all the speculations were. But is this going to be an issue? This is the issue of our times, but it's not new, right? When you said you caused this, when we started out this conversation, I really do think there may be something to that. Now, it's more than me. It's millions of people that were waking up around the world to the idea that there were no safety studies being done on the vaccines we're giving our kids, and that the injury rate appears to be much higher than anyone has admitted to us. That was waking up the population. We were seeing, before coronavirus, that roughly 30 or 40% of people were questioning the safety of vaccines in America, and that's why the WHO met about this in December. They had to come up with a plan, and they all strategized, how are we going to get the world to believe in vaccines again? And what I've been saying for the last couple of years, since all I've done is I've been in a deep dive investigation of the safety of vaccines. We hear that vaccines are safe and effective. I've only looked at one word, safe. How are they saying that they're safe? And by the work we've done and the lawsuits I've had against the government agencies, I've won 4 lawsuits against Health and Human Services, National Institute of Health, the FDA, and most recently the CDC, because they are covering up the truth. And I'm winning by demanding that they show us what they know. And when they finally do, it's absolutely shocking. So all of that was working in our favor. And then all of a sudden, and as I was standing on stages and talking to people all over the world, I was saying the pharmaceutical industry is going to attempt to take over every government in the world. And people go, oh my God, I was just at an Acapulco, which is filled with all sorts of, nutcases with every conspiracy and thought they have, whether it's Federal Reserve banking. I mean, I don't mean to call them nutcases. They think I'm one too. But you get the idea, extreme ideas. And I stood on the stage and I said, you were all worried about your pet issue, whether it's, Federal Reserve banks or the Rothschilds or the Masons or whatever speech you're giving. And I'm here telling you that of every speech that happened over the last 5 days, all day, every day we were here, the most important issue is the one I'm telling you about. You have no freedom if you lose control of your body. I don't care if you have all the Bitcoin in the world. If you can't get on a plane without being injected with a product you do not want in your body, then what good did that Bitcoin do for you? And people stood up and cheered at the end of the talk, but I said to them, they are going to attempt to take over the world. Why do I know that? Number one, because they're telling us what their agenda is. The WHO has been stating for over a year, the greatest threat to our control of public health is vaccine hesitancy. We're having meetings on it. Bill Gates is running test scenarios of future viruses and just happened to guess and do a scenario of a world pandemic just a couple of months before it actually happened, which makes him, I think, one of the greatest psychics the world has ever known. Or something's being manipulated. But then when it happened, I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just was saying this. The pharmaceutical industry is the most powerful lobby in Washington. It's outspending oil and gas 2-to-1. Every time I say that, I said, just think about it. We fight wars all over the Middle East. Many people don't think they make any sense. We fight those wars for oil and gas. And that's what they get for their bucks that are pouring into our government. What is pharma going to get that is giving our government officials and electing officials with twice the amount of money pouring into our government? And then I started recognizing they're pouring that money into every government around the world. And then, bam, here we go. Suddenly, some people get sick in China. At first, the World Health Organization is saying, no, it's not a big deal. Tony Fauci say we don't need to worry about it. But Bill Gates starts standing on top of a mountain screaming, this is the one. This is the one we've been planning for. This is the once-in-a-century virus. Then he pours a ton of money into the World Health Organization, and then the next day they say, you're right, this is the one. This is the big virus. And then suddenly the world starts changing around us. And so that's what. So did I cause that? I think that the people waking up and the concern of the World Health Organization and those that are trying to push this vaccine agenda, they realized they were running out of time. And I think that's to our benefit. I think they've jumped the gun. I think they had a plan to try and scare us all into submission, but I think they needed a bigger problem. I thought it was going to be Ebola or something like that. Instead, they've essentially attempted to take what is either a cold or a bad flu season and turn it into the Black Plague. And I think it's failing. And I think they're losing credibility. And all it has done is just accelerate the waking up of the world in my favor and those of us that have been talking about this for a very long time.
Yeah, so much for talking about the movie Vaxxed. now, okay, so let's stay on this.
You did that. Okay, let's stay on it.
Okay, let's stay on it. Let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay, please.
Let's say that the reason why the actual cases of coronavirus are lower than projected and that the death rate is much, much lower than that was projected was because of the stay-at-home orders and the shutting down of the world economy. That if we didn't do that, then the numbers would have been there and would have been what was projected.
First, I would say Sweden. I would say Taiwan. I would say South Korea. All places that have massive populations, large cities like Stockholm, did not lock down, and they had the same experience and death rate as the rest of the world. So that would be my first statement. I would then also say that death rate is not affected. Death rate.
Oh man. Okay, Dell. If you can hear me, you just dropped out completely. You just dropped out completely.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Now we got you back. Okay, so let's start over with Sweden.
Okay, what I said is my argument would be Sweden, would be Taiwan or South Korea. Those are all places that essentially did not lock down. Some of them fared better than the rest of the world, but certainly was on par with the same death rate and issue that the most lockdown countries were. In fact, there are multiple studies by gigantic universities all over the world and top scientists that have proven that whether you had very strict lockdown or virtually no lockdown at all, it had no difference in the death rate or the infection rate of COVID-19. That's just the going science. That's where it's at. And, you know, what I was going to say is a death rate is not affected by locking down. A death rate is simply of those that get sick, how many die? Of those that are, you know, that catch the illness, how many die? So it doesn't matter. A lockdown, if it had worked, we could say we had a lower amount of people that got the illness, and then therefore a lower amount of the numbers that died. But we're not talking numbers, we're talking about percentage. And so when we look at the percentage, we know for a fact they were dead wrong, catastrophically incorrect. Because when we think about the projection by the imperial model out of England, which the whole world followed, one guy, Neil Ferguson. I mean, you would think there'd be teams of scientists getting involved here, but instead we find out the entire world bowed down to one moronic scientist that has actually had other catastrophic mistakes with modeling before, with a foot and mouth disease fiasco in England, but still has his job, and now the world listened to him again. He projected 2.2 million deaths in America, 500,000 deaths in England, but that was based on a death rate that would have started around 3.5% and gone as high as 7% or higher. That's how you get to those numbers. We are now, as the CDC has pointed out, at a death rate of 0.26, a quarter of 1%. That means that they were dead wrong. A lockdown does nothing to your death rate percentage. And so that's why that argument is just pure baloney. The only thing you might attempt to argue is that there were fewer infections because of the lockdown. But as I've said, and if you watch my show, The Highwire, go to thehighwire.com, we've been showing the graphs that show you actually the peak of coronavirus. If you look at it in every nation, and especially the ones that locked down, the coronavirus peaked, and then the lockdown didn't happen for oftentimes at least 2 weeks, but usually a month after the infection rate was already declining. That means that something was making coronavirus decline in its infection and death rate other than the lockdown, because the lockdown hadn't happened yet. And so what we recognize, if we look at this coronavirus up against every other coronavirus and every other flu virus, all of them are seasonal, they have the same exact 2 week peak and 4 week arc. And no matter how the lockdown went, everybody had the same 2-week peak and 4-week arc for the most part. And the rest of it is just residual damage that happened from the infection already run through the country you live in. And in fact, most science right now is looking at the idea that we have maybe made this issue worse, because where it looked like there was really only a tiny group of people, the over 65 with other comorbid issues, other life-threatening illnesses, that little group, they got infected right away. A lot of it was probably problems with what Andrew Cuomo did by forcing nursing homes to take on people that were infected with COVID-19, which will go down probably as one of the greatest leadership errors in the history of mankind. Because it wasn't like he and the rest of the world had not already been told after what we watched in China and Italy, that it's the old folks that are at risk. Protect the old folks. And instead, he did the exact opposite. He was such a panicked ninny that it became more important to him to have open beds in a hospital, that in order to do that, he made them immediately kick old people out of the hospital when they were sick and stick them back in the nursing home. It's crazy. I mean, that killed countless people that didn't even really need to die. But the point being, you had this tiny group of people. They got the infection. They had the effects it was going to have. But for the 99.74% of the rest of the world, we have no issue with COVID-19. In fact, it's not even as bad as the flu. If you hear them describing it, most people didn't get any fever at all. They described them as asymptomatic carriers, meaning this illness was so light, most of the people that got it don't even know they had it. When did you ever hear of an illness like that? I mean, that's better than the common cold. And that happened to be the case. But here's what we did. We took people, the 99.74% of us that had such a robust immune system against this pathetic virus that we wouldn't have felt it, but instead of going out in the sunshine and continue to jog and exercise and go to the gym and eat well and stay in a positive space, which we know affects your health, we locked all of these people in with their elderly, with their kids, with a virus that may have been crawling around, and gave it weeks, if not months, to figure out a way to infect us, when ultimately it probably would have passed and burned off of us if we'd have just been out in the freaking sun. Because the number one issue is this thing can't survive in the sun, and your best defense is your own immune system. And what is the best vitamin to power up your immune system? Vitamin D, which we get from being out in the sun. So the entire approach to this is a disaster. It will go down in history as a disaster. We are still living in a period where we have public officials that have been dead wrong at every single turn of this thing. They're still licking their wounds. They don't have the strength or the decency to admit they made a catastrophic error. Go back to your lives, everybody. Instead, they're trying to figure out how to manipulate this conversation so that we still think they saved us from something.
That's
where we're at.
Yeah, let's take a break right here. Woo! Yeah, that was good stuff there, Del. Let's take a break right here. We will continue more with Del Bigtree after this short break. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, we are talking about 100 million vaccines that are allegedly going to be ready by the end of the year. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, fade or not, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers. We're also the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fade or Not by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright-Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Del Bigtree is here. Tomorrow night, Bruce R. Fenton. Human Hybrids. Thursday night is Fader Night. Open lines all night long. Tonight, we're talking about 100 million doses that are on the back burner here. And, yeah. Now, Del, how do you explain, I've been trying to figure this out. I want your thoughts on this. How do you explain the willingness of the entire planet, every country, willing to just shut down their economies? Everybody
absolutely took the bait, including myself. I locked down with my family. I was scared. Everybody took the bait. How is that possible?
Well, I think in some ways it's a good sign. I don't see this as, I know that there's been a lot of, we just gave up our rights so quickly. But the truth is an intelligent society has government for a reason. You know that there are wars going on that you probably don't know all the details to. And there has always been a concern, and really it's why the CDC has epaulets, right? You ever ask yourself why a government agency, why they all look like they're in the military? Because the CDC is actually a military body. It's not just there and designed to look at vaccines or make sure people are vaccinating. Its number one priority is to protect us from infectious disease, and more specifically from an infectious disease attack, being a biological weapon of some sort. That has been the major concern of the United States of America, our government, the CDC, and really every other government around the world. And so I think that because we trust our government, we've elected these people, I think we did the right thing. I locked down too right at first. When we were seeing this thing come out of China, there was a lot of chaos and mayhem. It looked like China was lying their asses off, so we didn't know what was really going on there. We saw people, body bags piling up in the streets. We saw people trying to put out videos disappearing. And so I was amongst those that say, wow, I don't know what's going on there. I wish I could go there and investigate it myself. But since I can't, I'm going to go ahead and take the word of those, scientists that are supposed to have my best interests in mind, and I'm going to lock this down until they figure out what's going on. All of that is perfectly fine, natural, and I think it's beautiful. And it represents, how much we trust those that we've elected. The problem you have, and where we got to start then questioning our intelligence, is once you actually start having the facts come in and start recognizing that the model this was built on was absolutely dead wrong, and watching other scientists say that was the worst mathematical model ever put together. And hearing that the death rate is, if you look at, London or England moved their death rate, Neil Ferguson, the first time he downgraded it was from 500,000 down to 20,000. That's off by like 1,200%, or, from 20,000 to 500,000 is catastrophic error. When you watched our governments at that point not change course, there was not a hiccup. There wasn't like, oh, geez, man, we were really wrong here. Let's reassess. Everybody, hold on, America. Give us a day to work this out. No, they just kept on plodding forward with the destruction of our economy, keeping us locked down, telling us we need masks. We need to be afraid of the air over, well, it's now not going to be millions, but maybe 100,000 like your average flu season. That's the moment then I have to start questioning people's intelligence and people's ability to think for themselves. And where we start questioning our government. I remember when these numbers started to get floated, and I'm calculating in my mind and thinking to myself, how are we going to go to, this was that long ago, okay, 500 deaths or whatever in the United States at that point. I'm not in any way discounting anybody that has lost a loved one or anything like that. That is, man, that's harsh. And when we put deaths into numbers, we are starting to take the emotional side out of this, and I don't want to appear that way. But I have to say this. I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm going, how are we going to get from 500 or 1,000 today to 10 million, right, by the end of the month? What are we talking about here? And it scared the crap out of me. I thought that they knew something that I didn't, that this was going to just roll over this country. And it honestly freaked me out. I'm looking at the streets here in Burbank, empty. I'm watching everything happen, where I'm driving to coast to go to work on an empty freeway, the 405 of all places, Dell, you know well. And how is this possible? And I started to, take the bait on this somewhat, but it didn't happen. And when, time rolls into a week or two where we're seeing the opposite of that, I was starting to question what was really going on.
but the rest of the world didn't question things. And that's what kind of freaked me out, that nobody stood up and said, hey, wait a minute here, right? Let's just hold on for a second. Is this worth really putting us back into the Stone Age? Is it really worth that? Shutting down and ruining careers and lives and schools and everything else, corporations, and that we're going to have to spend years rebuilding, Del.
Yeah. Well, the truth is that there were people, and probably the best scientists in the world, all over the world, stating exactly that very early on, that this is a mistake, that these draconian measures are not only not necessary, they're going to cause more harm than good. And I can honestly say, and anyone that wants to challenge me, you can watch the last 3 months of the coronavirus on the Highwire, and we've had this right for 3 months because I've been following the scientists that we should be trusting. I'm talking world-renowned scientists. In fact, I would argue that the consensus or the body of science, even though I'm not a believer in consensus, and we can get into that, but if you want to talk about the majority, I would say the majority of talented, actual world-renowned scientists, they've been against the lockdown from the beginning. They were the ones yelling, what mathematical model are you looking at? What are you talking about? This is a flu. This is just like every coronavirus we have every single year. You are making something out of nothing. But you see, the health department leaders, and remember, the heads of our health department are not the brightest ones in the room. Your brightest scientists are out trying to make a future drug or a future vaccine or save the world. Your health department is just the people that failed through school and managed to say, hey, I can jump into a government job. So we have let the least talented scientists, and I think Anthony Fauci has clearly proved he has no talent. I mean, I would challenge anybody. I mean, I know that's hard, and a lot of your viewers or listeners are probably in California, but I challenge you. Show me one thing, one scientific principle or statement through COVID-19 that came out of Anthony Fauci's mouth that proved to be true 2 weeks later. I mean, he has literally had to change his tune and story almost every other day, but certainly I don't think a single thing he said ever lasted 2 weeks to be true. And yet we hold this guy on a pedestal of some kind. I mean, that's outrageous to me. I've never seen officials fail. And we're watching it right now, right? People are arguing. I'm so glad Donald Trump dumped the WHO. I can't tell you. When you watch it the last 4 days, as it turns out, asymptomatic carriers don't spread the disease. Oh, whoops, our bad. No, they do spread the disease. I mean, how many times are we going to watch this in the news and say, holy cow? Those are some really untalented scientists.
Now, is it, look, not only dealing with the flip-flopping, because that is daily now, it just doesn't matter. The flip-flopping is there, and it's on every network. It's not a red or a blue thing or, a European thing in the United States. No, everybody is dealing with the flip-flopping, and you really can't get a straight story out of any of the networks, and you're not getting anything straight out of any of the governments, which leaves everybody on this planet going, you know what? That conspiracy stuff, I'm starting to buy into it now.
That's right. Yeah, totally.
It's a brand new day when the conspiracy theorists out there hold more credibility than the establishment. And
well, if you think about it, Jimmy, I just want to make the point that I think I try to warn my friends that talk about this as some sort of cabal, that this is the controlling superpower families or whatever, the Masons, whatever you want to call it. I say if that's true, they are the most disorganized bunch of clowns that we've ever seen. I don't think they're doing a very good job taking over the world. I'm not worried about it. But the point being, what the catastrophic mistake they made was, for those of us that really do investigate these things and look at how the government really lies to us and pulls the wool over our eyes, we've always been saying, and you and I have had this conversation, in person, that really we're all so damn busy trying to get through life, trying to work our 2 jobs and, pay for our beautiful house and find a moment to spend with our kids so they remember who we are when they move on to college, that we're just not paying attention to what's happening in the world around us. And that's how we've been losing sight of our liberty and our freedoms as it's just being voted away. Who has time to go to a state capitol and talk to a politician or see what they're voting on? Well, they took all of the world, and especially Americans that are busybodies running with our hair on fire, trying to get through the day, and they locked us in our houses for weeks. They took people that are used to running around, being busy, and gave us nothing to do except start asking really important questions.
Right.
Like, what is the coronavirus?
Right.
And if my life doesn't get back to normal after a vaccine, what's in a vaccine? How do you make a vaccine? How does safety testing work? What am I waiting for? All the questions that I have been trying to get these people to ask and start looking into for the last 4 years I've been on tour traveling the world. And so that gave us the greatest favor there could ever be. You sat people down and gave them time to finally think.
I couldn't agree with you more. And in a way, it made me happy. And it also scared the crap out of me, Del. It really did, because now you're going to have a lot of woke people that are pretty angry. Hence where we are today, right?
Correct. Anybody that wasn't predicting rioting and all sorts of pent-up rage and anger, misplaced or well-placed, but causing harm, that is obviously where this was all heading.
And we saw it. And it happened on a dime. That was the other part for me, that it was like one day everybody is locked down watching celebrities perform music on the internet to mayhem, and it happened. It was just like that. Let me actually change this up just a little bit, because you just mentioned something that I think is very important, and I don't want it to get away from us. I want to understand some of the urban myth that has been drilled into my head since I was a kid, right? Okay, which is the common cold, there is no cure. Mm-hmm. If you get a cure for the common cold, then we got a cure for just about anything that ails us. Right?
Well, it is ironic, isn't it? That is the one statement I've thought a lot about this too.
Well, if that is the case, right? I'm setting you up for this. If that is the case, if there is a vaccine for coronavirus to the tune of 100 million doses, does that mean that there's a vaccine for every virus on this planet now, and we've suddenly got the Holy Grail in place? I need to understand what's really happening.
Well, I would say not yet, but that is the goal, right? And I think, I love where you're going with this, and I think you really have to try and wrap your head around that level of insanity. Because this is what's happening. I had a friend in England that he's in England now, but we used to make films together. And we talked about, wanting to do things to save the world. He thinks I'm the most dangerous human being now on the planet. He was in tears as he was raging upon me that I don't vaccinate my kids and that the COVID-19 is killing people, and that's my fault and my unvaccinated kids. And I was trying to, calm him down and say, look, we have different philosophies on health, but can you explain to me how my unvaccinated kids have anything to do with COVID-19, which nobody has a vaccine for? And he said it's the idea of it, and the fact that you don't want vaccine. He was out of his mind. And when at a certain point, I said, look, I understand that your world has been shaken by this. And we all saw the memes, right? Hey, anti-vaxxers, this is your world without vaccines. You see those when they were saying, right?
Right.
And I would respond, no, this is our world with vaccines. This is a world with vaccines. We have vaccines. This is the world that happens with vaccines. And let me explain that. My friend had this incredible belief that because he gave his children, and maybe himself, I doubt himself, but his children 16 vaccines in 54 or 72 doses, depending how you count it. But we have essentially vaccines for 16 bacteria and viruses on this planet. There happens to be billions, okay? Billions of bacteria and viruses that can do all kinds of things to you, include killing you. Now, my friend believed a system that told him because he was injecting his children with 16 of the billions that can attack you, he was somehow going to be safe and his kids were going to be safe. But then one of the billions that hadn't been covered suddenly looked like it was a problem, and now he's out of his mind. And so I said to him, look, you're out of your mind because your philosophy of health is failing you. And until there's a vaccine, you're terrified. On the other hand, I live in a world and I raise my kids to have powerful immune systems based on the immune system and the way it has worked since the dawn of man, meaning feed it good food, give it clean water, try and keep all the chemicals out of your body, and do your best to get plenty of rest. So my children, I said, look, I'm not afraid. I think my kids are going to do just fine with COVID-19. And you may not think that. And I imagine that when they finally do have a vaccine for COVID-19, now having that 17th vaccine amongst billions will give you some false sense of security, and that's your right to have it. I just don't happen to have a brain that looks at having a cure to 17 of a billion problems as doing anything to actually create health in this world. Does that make sense?
It does.
I hope that makes sense.
It does. And this may go into the next segment, but I want to get this started. One of the things that I constantly look at when it comes to anything, Ebola or anything like that, right? As soon as the announcement is made, I then look at the companies, these startups and these companies around the United States that are going to go after a cure or go after a vaccine, and the stock market and what happens to that company, the amount of money that is raised, the profits that are there, but then the disease itself, whatever it may be, suddenly goes away. And these what appears to be a money grab. Now, I don't want to say that what is happening here is a money grab. I'm just implying that there is something here that is always just a little bit fishy. And when I hear an announcement about 100 million, that's a lot of vaccines. That's a lot of dollars. Who are the companies that are making it? And what is the intention there? And then the political influence that is going on behind the scenes. You just mentioned the amount of lobbying that happens in Washington, D.C. So who are the companies behind that are manufacturing 100 million vaccinations by the end of the year? And what kind of money are we actually talking about? Now, am I waving the craziest conspiracy hat on the world? Have I lost my mind? Or is this something that as a country, we need to stop and take a look at?
Well, first of all, you're simply talking about the basic principle of good journalism. You study in journalism, follow the money, right? If you're trying to figure out what's driving something and it's not making sense, they always say, follow the money. Where's the money trail? Where's it going? Who's making the money? And then maybe you'll get a sense of what the actual motive is, right? So that's not conspiracy thinking. And by the way, it's really the powers that be that have called things like that conspiracy. I say now that Woodward and Bernstein would have been called conspiracy theorists for saying that Nixon was tapping phones and trying to find out what his opponent was doing. Because the way we're fact-checked now, they would call Richard Nixon's office and say, are you tapping phones? And he would say no. And they say, see, the experts said it's not happening, therefore it's not true, and this is a conspiracy theory. A conspiracy theory is just, for every journalist, is just a story that you haven't proved yet. that you haven't finished your investigation on. So are we not supposed to investigate anything? So I want to make that point about the conspiracy theory. Now let's look at what you're talking about. The 100 million vaccines, Jimmy, is the tip of the pin here. That is just simply, they are producing right now as we speak 100 million vaccines before that vaccine has ever proven to work or be safe. They're already making it. I mean, this defies reason on a level we have never seen. The goal is not, it doesn't stop at the 100 million vaccines. As Bill Gates has put it, everyone in the world will get this vaccine. Everyone should get this vaccine. There will be 7.5 billion coronavirus vaccines made. So let's just look at that incentive, right? And I call it the amazing race, really. What we've done is, first of all, our government, Donald Trump, provided 8.4 I want to say it was $1 billion. Am I right? I think it was 8.48 billion invested into creating a coronavirus vaccine. So all of a sudden, 100 drug companies apparently jump forward and say, hey, we can make one.
Right.
And they get to suck off of this $8.4 billion. Can I say tit? I'm sorry, I said it. There you go.
Yeah,
all
you
right?
did.
So they get to now get free money to be a part of a race that if they win it, they get the prize. And what is the prize? A product used by 7.5 billion people. Let's just imagine this is a cheap vaccine, and it's only like $100. You are talking about the potential of one product by one company making $750 billion. In what? A year or two, okay? Now, take on the fact that once they have finally pierced your skin, or broken the seal, as we say, and we've all submitted to the idea that you can inject us whether we want it or not because the government says we need a vaccine, well, now you need another 54 vaccines like your kids got because we never got those vaccines. Do that to 7.5 billion people. Oh, and by the way, did you know there's 270 vaccines in the approval process right now as we speak, and that there's thousands of vaccines in trials? Because as you were pointing out just a moment ago, their goal is to have a vaccination for every bacteria and virus on the planet. We are talking about sums of money you cannot even calculate is what's going on here. So is it possible? You know, am I really out of line to consider the idea that in this case, the 100 million, we're already making them. Governments have already chosen their favorite front runners out of the 100 companies. In America, it's the Moderna vaccine, which has several patents from the National Institute of Health, where Tony Fauci is a lead player. In fact, all of his top scientists, well, not all, but many of his top scientists own patents in the Moderna vaccine. They stand to make millions of dollars personally. Is that a conflict of interest? I think so. But Moderna is lined up, and we're already paying them to make 100 million, whether the damn thing works or not. And in England, it's AstraZeneca's vaccine that's in trials at Oxford. They're going to be making 100 million over there. But that's only to use for the doctors and the frontline workers. And now they're starting to say Bill Gates would really like to give it to African Americans up front. I don't know what African Americans have to say about that, but you're going to be his first test group because you're having so much of a problem as he thinks it is with COVID-19. You need that vaccine. Jimmy, this is the biggest cash run. This is the gold rush of gold rushes. And so what I would say in my experience of not just studying this industry, but of studying humanity, that wherever there's hundreds of billions of dollars to be made by one company, there is a slight chance that some of the top scientists will overlook some flaws in their science in order to step up for that prize. I'm sorry, call me a skeptic, but that's where I'm at.
Let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Del Bigtree. You knew it was going to be like this, everybody, and I'm enjoying it. Del Bigtree. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. More with Del after this short break. Stay with us.
We listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Teppy.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the paranormal radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. If you ever miss a live show like this one with Del Bigtree, just get our podcast. We have over 1,200 shows right there in the archives for you. It's just $2 a month. And this is the best point of all. You get to go back and listen to all of Del and Jimmy's conversations over the years. It's worth it right there for $2. Listen, you bring up, I think, one of the best points, and it's a gold rush. There is no question about this. And I bring this up every single time. It seems, Del, we go through this a few times a year, right? CDC gets involved, companies get involved, there's vaccine research, there's $100 or $200 million raised, and then you hear nothing. And
disappears.
It just goes away, and including the companies that are, did the stock market gold rush for themselves. But this time around, it's a different story. We've got the entire planet on fear alert. And what coronavirus is, and I'm not saying that coronavirus isn't real, but here the reaction has been on a global scale. And I'm not sure that there's going to be enough people raising these issues about, okay, where's the money going? Who's been influenced by this? Who's going to profit from it? Because we're talking about probably $1 trillion that may happen every single year for the rest of time. Right? It's extraordinary.
Per vaccine.
Yes, per vaccine.
Per vaccine, yeah. Could be multiple, could be tens, could be hundreds of vaccines. We're about to become human pincushions, right? If they have to vaccinate us for every single virus and bacteria, because that's the only way you'll be able to really make my friend in the UK safe, you got to get to those billions of viruses and bacteria that could kill you. Well, then there's no end to this flow of cash. I don't know what else we'll be able to pay for. I don't know how we're going to be able to eat. I don't know what we're going to do, because all of our money is going to go to be protecting ourselves against the viruses and bacteria that we've been living with since the dawn of man.
Now,
it's really outrageous.
Yeah. And the other part about this is, do you think that the politicians and those that are leaders at the community level, the state level, and certainly the national and federal level were not only reacting to bad data, which appears to be bad data, let's just say that. We do need to let the smoke clear somewhat.
No, I think you can legitimately say that the imperial model was bad data. I think that that has been tried, that has been convicted. Neil Ferguson has left his job. It is a total and complete disaster, and everyone in the world, I think, can admit that now. So you're allowed to say that.
Okay, so with all of that, those same leaders, again, at the community, city, state level, shouldn't they in turn be talking to us about where the money is going and who the companies are and how to proceed, and to make sure that there's some accountability here? Because when we're talking about the budgets of every single country in the world that we're talking about here, we're talking about huge amounts of money that we need to be very aware of how this is about to play out.
Sure, but the truth is that is one of the things that I think, because of the nature of how they've this reign of fear they've brought down upon us, they're actually in a position where they've been fairly forthcoming. We are seeing $8.4 billion going out. We do know they're building manufacturing plants and producing 100 million vaccines for a vaccine that we don't even know if it works. We know that Moderna is the one that is making that vaccine. And if you've been watching the news, you always have to, and this was an incredible story. I want to say, it seems like last week, but I always add an extra week or two just because time is flying so fast. But about 2 weeks ago, I don't know if everyone noticed, but the moment Moderna said that they had a vaccine, that they were working with NIAID, Fauci's NIAID inside the NIH to produce this vaccine, their stock market share shot up, right? And I try to think of this story as one of the 45 people that's in the test group, right? These And let me be clear, these are courageous citizens in America. These people, as far as I'm concerned, might as well be sitting on the first rocket heading to Mars. We think you'll live over there. We think we got a way to create oxygen for you, but you are really taking your life in your hands. And I hope we definitely got to, in this conversation, make sure we talk about the science behind the COVID-19 vaccine, which is one of the most dangerous vaccines ever attempted. But my point is this. You're in the study. There's actually 3 people that were severely injured in the Moderna trials. They said they had a severe adverse reaction, which means they had to go to the hospital. One of them has been speaking out, saying that he fainted, he passed out, was so sick, vomiting, fell over. Luckily, his wife caught his head before it smashed on the floor, went to the doc, all of this. Very, very traumatic. But I think about that person as I follow this news story. Did you know that the chief medical officer of Moderna, meaning the guy in charge of all of the science, the moment they announced that the vaccine, that they were going to attempt to make the vaccine and the stock market started going up, that he started sharing off at the legal limit that he could every single ounce of stock he had. And then when he ran out of stock within a couple of short weeks, he went and bought up every stock option he had and sold that off at top dollar to the tune, I want to say he made something like $18 million or something like that. But here's the point. Did you know he does not have a single share of Moderna stock left? Now, you could understand someone saying, hey, man, stock's up, it's going to be solid, it's going to be hot. But can you imagine how hot that share is going to be when they prove the vaccine works? I mean, that's going to make Apple or anything else look like, you could have bought in for 25 cents and become a freaking billionaire. But this guy did not leave himself one single share just to see maybe if the vaccine works out. And he's the chief medical officer. When I saw that story, I actually thought that's not necessarily a greedy person that's just trying to get one over on the world. That is so egregious, and he knows it's egregious, and he knows every newspaper is going to report on it. You know what I think he was doing? I think he shot off a flare. I think he did it on purpose. He can't be questioned on it because it's internal, it's going to be protected by any sort of internal information in his company. But he basically said to the world, that's right, listen to this, I sold off every single share I have. Take that as you want to understand it. What I think he's saying is this thing is a turkey. And in fact, it's probably dangerous, and I don't want blood on my hands. I may get rich in the process, but I'm sending out the only flare I can. Why would I, as chief medical officer of the #1 contender for the vaccine program, get rid of every share I have so that I will not make a red cent should it become this glorious, life-saving vaccine?
Right.
That's huge. That's a huge story.
You know what? And either side of that could be true, right? Yeah. Either side of it. One, hey, I sold it before. I could have held on to it. I just got rid of it just because this is America, all right? And nobody's going to fault him for that because it was before the stock was worth, 10,000% more. Right? Okay. All right. So no harm, no foul. Or is it the other side that he knows that this vaccine's not going to work and he wanted to get
honestly, Jimmy, you interview people for a living.
Right.
You're telling me that a man that is inside the company doesn't hold on to 5 shares, 10 shares?
Oh yeah, I know.
Just in case? It makes no sense.
Can you imagine the sales office, the meeting when that, yes. Oh man, right. The cheering that was going on. And and again, there's another side of me. I enjoy money just like the next guy. Sure. And I'm going to say, well, you know what? That's the way the system works. You can't fault him on that. You
No, I don't fault him. But I do think I think he's given us a gift. I think he is sending us a signal. And that signal is this vaccine is as dangerous as anything that's ever been attempted. And one of the things that I say really is there's two words that make up one of the most dangerous sentences, and it's any time you put them together in a sentence, and this is it: rushing the science. When you see those two words together, as it's reported in virtually every headline around the world, you should immediately be very, very concerned. The biggest mistakes in human history involve those two words: rushing science. Then when you look at what we know about the attempts at this vaccine over the last several decades, you start learning something that is absolutely chilling. This is a vaccine that they know has the potential to absolutely backfire and kill people.
Now there's another twist to this. Well, there's a lot of twists, but there's another twist to this. Is it as simple as? Probably not. But is it as simple as just make sure you're healthy, right? Make sure you're immune. Make sure your vitamins are there, that you're eating healthy, and your immune system is topped off, and that you're doing the right things. Is it as simple as that? And of course, that's the opposite of profits for big pharma, right? Am I wrong in looking at it like this?
I think you're absolutely right. What are we looking at? What we're looking at with COVID-19 is that 99.74% of humanity do not have to worry about COVID-19. And by the way, that includes Dorito-eating, Big Mac sucking, Slurpee drinking people all over the world. I mean, if it's 99.74%, you don't even have to be that healthy to have an immune system that fights this off, okay? But yes, can you imagine how well you do if you actually take care of your body, you actually exercise, you eat good food? I highly recommend organic food for everybody because the herbicides like Monsanto's glyphosate, Roundup, which is sprayed on 90% of our crops, is absolutely catastrophic to your health. And the only way you can avoid that is making sure you're eating organic food. I think that your water, you should be very particular about the water you're drinking. I'm not like some OCD person. I recognize I live in one of the most toxic environments the world has ever seen. I can't catch everything, but the things that I am aware of and I can be careful with my body and my kids, that's what I do. I do the best I can without losing my mind. But yes, be healthy. That's what we know. And what we know, too, is who's dying from COVID-19? People on drugs. I don't mean people taking, hallucinogens or cocaine. I mean only people on pharmaceutical drugs are the ones that are dying from COVID-19. That's the fact. That's the thing nobody wants to say. They're either on hypertension drugs or diabetes drugs or asthma inhalers, but they are using pharmaceutical products on a daily basis. Those are the only people that are dying from COVID-19. No children are dying. Nobody under the age of 45 is dying at all. And under the age of 65, if you're relatively healthy and not on drugs because you've treated your body badly and now need drugs to survive, you're going to be absolutely fine.
Now, there's the other side of that, which is if this message gets communicated enough, which I do every single day on this show, Del, I tell everybody, keep your immune system in check. Look, Del, I try to eat as healthy as I can. Rita and I cook the best foods that we can. But damn it, I love a Big Mac and an order of fries. Okay? I do. But but I take care of myself. I make sure that I'm taking vitamins. I make sure that I don't want to give up the stuff in life that actually makes me happy, right? And I'm being very straight, and I've been very honest with this audience for a very long time. I'm not perfect, and I don't want to say that I'm perfect. I don't want to go down that road. But if you are doing the things that you love, like Haagen-Dazs, right? If you're doing, just make sure you're taking vitamins. Make sure you're drinking the right water. Make sure that you're taking the supplements. Make sure that you're up on things. That's all. Just make sure that you're doing that because I've never taken a flu vaccine. I've never gotten the flu, right? And I can't explain that. I don't want to have people do as I say or do as I do. I can only reflect back on myself with my own experiences with this. And I want to make sure that because I have never taken a flu vaccine, and that's never been made mandatory, that this coronavirus vaccine that's coming out, I want to have those same options there. I haven't gotten coronavirus. I don't know if it's because my immune system is in check. I can only speak for my own experiences. Shouldn't we have those same options?
Absolutely. I think I just want to take what you've said just one slight step further. Yes. Eat your Big Mac. Look, I have my cheat days. There's those moments I go out, get the pizza. I love a good beer once in a while, a glass of wine. I live my life.
Right.
And I accept the consequences of living my life. I'm under no illusion. Let me be clear. I don't need to live to be 100 years old to believe that my life meant something. That's not how I'm approaching it. I would prefer that every day I go to bed, I use the sort of Native American principle. It's a good day to die, meaning I look back, I was good to people, I enjoyed that day, and if I don't wake up tomorrow, man, that was a perfectly good day to have lived and gotten through it. And so that's how I approach it. But I want to say this. There are people that eat more Big Macs than others or really find a lot more enjoyment in drinking, big gulp Slurpees that you could put the diving board on the side of. That's okay. This is a free country. And go ahead and do whatever you want. I'm not judging you. I'm not standing at the grocery store looking at what's in your shopping cart. How many, gallons of orange soda do I see in there in Doritos? I'm not doing that because this is a free country. But do me a favor. If you decided that that was what made you happy and you had less concern for your health further down the road and you find yourself with oxygen tubes in your nose or on, 5 to 10 different drugs because each drug has a side effect that the next drug has to fix, if you're one of those people, please do me a favor and do not demand that my healthy children and I have to take a drug or a vaccine to protect you. That's my only issue. My only issue. And my plea to pharma is this. I think you guys are talented enough to create a product that actually protects the people that need it. In this case, 0.26% of Americans and everyone else in the world have a very acute, dangerous situation with COVID-19. Will you please make them a vaccine? Or maybe take a better look at hydroxychloroquine, which 200 studies are showing has a 99% effectiveness rate at curing COVID-19. Will you please just take your talents and make a product for the 0.26% and leave the 99.74% of the rest of us alone? We don't need it. We don't want it. We have no concern. We're not even going to get a fever like we had the flu. So why in God's name do I need to inject a product that has the potential of killing me if I don't need it? I want to make this really clear. Vaccines are a great idea for people that need them. And it is obvious. You want to talk about the money trail? Why does pharma love vaccines so much compared to drugs? Why has Tony Fauci got a hit out on hydroxychloroquine, and so does Bill Gates and everyone else? Because if a product is 99% effective in stopping COVID-19, you have no need for a vaccine. Period. End of story. Remember, the amazing race is going on, and everybody in it wants to make hundreds of billions of dollars. We'll try to make hundreds of billions of dollars off of hydroxychloroquine, which has now been around so long and has caused no heart attacks in the 40 years we've been giving it to every individual, including people with heart issues that are traveling to malaria-ridden countries. And if it did have a heart issue, you should really question why your health department was recommending it for anybody. But I could go on and on, but how do you make any money? Let's take it a step further. Even if it's not hydroxychloroquine, if you're a pharmaceutical company, would you rather have a product that you can sell to 0.26% of America? Or wouldn't it be really better if you convince America that they need to take a product made for 99.74% of you to protect the 0.26%? I mean, this is the biggest scam in world history. The idea of vaccinations and how they sell it, that the only people that can't take it are the ones that need it, and everybody else that doesn't need it, they're the ones that have to get it. Look, you got to give them credit, right? That's the greatest, marketing campaign in the history of any product in the world. But anybody that buys into that, I'm sorry, you are an idiot.
This is what is so disturbing by that statement is that I always picture, Del, I'm serious too about this, the meetings that are going on with the whiteboards, right, and the computer presentations to the rest of the company that are actually discussing this, right? Yes. That's what, you know what? And these people drive home, right, in their Bentleys, with their stock options, smiling about it. Man, that was an effective presentation today. We got this. We got this.
We got it.
Yeah. Let's take our break right here. This is
okay.
You know what? Well, we have to because my blood is starting to boil. And this is the other thing. Yeah, this is what. And when we come back off of the break, we'll take this a little bit further. The campaign that is going on in social media about this right now, which is worldwide, is not necessarily from individuals like you or myself or others, but it is an effective social media campaign fed back through the media by Big Pharma. Right? This is, it's a battalion strength force that is doing this, right?
The richest industry in the world.
That's the scariest part. Let's continue this when we come back. Our guest tonight, Del Bigtree. We're talking about those 100 million vaccines that are being prepared just for you. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We haven't been shut down yet tonight. We still got an hour to go. I'll be right back.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Our guest tonight, Del Bigtree. This is a conversation that just needs to be heard. It just needs to be heard. And this is the thing, Del, and this is where I'm going to go next. And by the way, everybody that's listening, Del and I have not discussed a single thing about tonight's show. And it's about open conversation and putting it out there. And this is the thing, Del. There's been a lot of censorship around not only vaccines and Vaxxed, but coronavirus. If you go against the WHO, your YouTube channel is taken down, right? Or it's been pretty violent and obvious to everybody. You have been on the front lines of this for a long time. And the pressure that has been brought down on you, I don't think can be measured. I want to talk to you on a personal level. How have you made it through? You are going up against the biggest of the big, and it can't have been too pleasant, has it?
Well, I think my mother-in-law said to me recently, she said, I watched you get involved in this vaccine issue about 4 years ago. And to see that it is now the number one topic of discussion in the world, she said, boy, you really picked it, and we really did. But I'll tell you, I'm driven by my fascination of science. I really am just fascinated by science. That's something that happened when I was producing. I started on the Dr. Phil show, and then I got picked sort of randomly. I was just one of the producers that, the Dr. Phil show said, look, we want to create this new medical talk show. Why don't you run around with this new executive producer? We're going to do some episodes on Dr. Phil to test out the concept. So I got in at the very beginning to do the first ever medical talk show. At that point, I still wanted to be like a filmmaker. I was going to go and make, Hollywood movies, and I was just doing this Dr. Phil thing as a, a side gig or something like that. But a passion came out as I started creating this medical talk show and reading medical journals and finding stories about people that had some crazy illness that no doctor in their small town had ever seen before. And then I had the internet, and I could go all around the world and find a doctor or a surgeon that was dealing with that exact issue. And I could say to that surgeon, you'll get free advertising by coming onto my show and healing this person. And they every time said, absolutely, I'll do it. And I got to start watching medicine when it's done correctly, and the best in the world, saving people's lives, and the miracle of great science, that I developed this incredible passion for science. So in the midst of all of this, with all of the insanity going on, the truth is I'm still just really addicted to the concept of viruses and bacteria and drugs and vaccines and how does this thing work. Then you add on to it corruption, which is in every single industry. Then you add to it the manipulation of media, and you recognize that every news reporter is essentially working for the pharmaceutical industry, because 50 to 70% of mainstream media television is funded by pharma, which you can see by counting the pharma commercials in between your favorite news programs. And you start recognizing, and the government's involved in this. They're taking money from pharma. And so as a reporter or a journalist or an investigator of any kind, I'm telling you, there may be attacks on me. I see them. I see people calling me names. But I am involved in what I believe to be the most fascinating story that has ever hit humanity. And so maybe I'm blind to it, Jimmy. I absolutely love every day I've been in this. I have met nothing but exceptional scientists and heroes that are speak out against this incredible, sick, financially driven power. And I stand with them all the time. And they call me in the middle of coronavirus and say, I've got some data you need to look at from Germany. Hi, Del, this is me. We're in Russia right now. We're looking at something. Hey, I met you. I'm in the UK. I'm actually working right next to Neil Ferguson. Let me show you something that nobody else has seen. That is what is behind the Highwire and the show that I'm doing. And I'm lucky enough now that so many scientists have watched the work that me and my team have done, that we have got this body of incredible talent that is just feeding me with more information to give to the public. So yes, I suppose there are considerations. There are things that maybe make me more visible, and I want to make sure that my family's safe and that things are going on. But the truth is I am as happy as, I was going to say a pig in the middle of you-know-what, but I love my life. I love that I get to wake up with passion every morning, and I love that through all of this coronavirus, we have had to make some choices. We have gone down some roads thinking, I think that that's where the answer is, and I can report to you that I think if you look back at the 3 months of our reporting, we got more right than anybody else you ever listened to in the news. And so that's something to feel good about.
Do you ever feel that you have a target on your back? Your own safety. Is that ever a concern?
I travel with a good friend of mine named Jimmy. He's my manager. He handles all of my scheduling, whether I'm going to be on this show or any other. And he always says when someone walks up to me in a crowd, I'm really worried for your safety. Aren't you worried for your own safety? And he always says, only when people ask. Which happens a lot. The truth is no, I don't feel that I'm in danger. I think that, but I don't live my life about how long I'm here either. I think that I'm driven by purpose, and that, as I said, it's what I do every day to be honest and truthful and do good work. There's no guarantee how long any of us are going to be on this planet. I could be worried about someone taking me out and accidentally step in front of a bus tomorrow. I mean, who knows how this whole thing ends? I don't waste time worrying about that. And, God willing, we all last a very long time, and, we make it to whatever goals we have. But I live in the moment. And I want my kids to see that too, right? I want my kids, because they're going to grow up in a very, very intense world. They're going to have to clean up a lot of, the problems we've caused and the things we're trying to fix now. But I don't want children that are afraid. I don't want them to see that I'm afraid. I want them to see that life is not how long you're here. It's the quality of why you're here. And if you stand in what you believe and you deliver truth and you treat people honestly, then you are going to have a great life. And that's really all I focus on. And I don't walk around in fear.
And there is a big chunk of this audience listening right now that also not only shares the same concerns, but they are viewed a certain way when they bring up these subjects, right? And they have to face maybe criticism or negativity. And how do you deal with it? Because you are always up against a pretty effective disinfo campaign, not only against you, but against Vaxxed or any of the concerns that you raise. What is the advice that you can give? How do you deal with it? Because the audience is going to listen and hopefully learn something and figure out a way to deal with it also.
Well, so many people are afraid to have this conversation, whether they have an injured child or they've done their research and they're not vaccinating their child or, whatever reason they come to this sort of specific issue. And a lot of times they say, I'm afraid to talk to my friends, or I've lost friends on Facebook over this. I don't really want to get into it. And I want to say that we have got to get into it. We have got to wake up our friends and families immediately. This is the time. You are seeing the product of us being complacent, of allowing governments and medical establishment to just get so far down the road. They think, look at what they're telling us they want. If you listen to Bill Gates, these are no longer theories from some guy like Del Bigtree standing on a stage warning you of this. You now have Bill Gates, Tony Fauci, heads of governments saying, we want to contact trace you. We are installing apps in your phones to see how close you're standing next to somebody, or if you're kissing or hugging them, or who you are actually with. We are also going to start flying drones that can check your temperature. We are going to force inject you with products you have no control over. And in order to make sure you got it, we are going to either have a real ID card delivered to you by the end of 2020, or maybe, if we're lucky, the microchip we're working on and trying to convince you should be injected with to track your medical records so you don't have to worry whether you have your card or not. And you won't be able to get on a plane, by the way, until you are injected with what Bill Gates thinks you need, a man that never sat in a science class in his life other than, computer science. So these are no longer theories. This is the world that a very sick group of people have planned for you. I was laughing just yesterday. I was talking to some friends, and I said, what was that movie? Remember that movie? Revenge of the Nerds. In a way, this is Revenge of the Nerds. There is a very twisted group of people that, for whatever reason, were really focused on viruses and bacteria, and maybe they're hypochondriacs, and they've created this idea of a world they control, where they are smarter than nature, where they can inject you with enough things to protect you from the billions of viruses and bacteria, even though your immune system has done fine since the dawn of man, handling it all on its own. See, all of these things are going on, and the reason I'm saying this is that you cannot be afraid to speak your truth now. In fact, it is demanded, and it is, by our founding fathers in America, that you speak your truth now. We are under attack. We are going to win this because they are stupid, and their ideas are stupid, and they're unorganized, and they're flip-flopping left and right. Stop seeing them as some power cabal and see them for the childish morons they actually are, and start pointing it out to your brothers and sisters and friends now. Because if I can make a very dangerous comparison, when I look at the George Floyd incidents, I am watching not just one police officer that for 8 minutes is just, destroying and killing a man. I see his other, officers standing and watching him, which to me in some ways they are even more at fault, because clearly, for whatever reason, this officer is on tilt. He is not thinking clearly. He's out of his mind. I don't know if it's adrenaline. I don't know if he's on drugs. I don't know. But what I know is he has partners that are supposed to protect him from making a mistake, to wake him up and say, get off of that guy.
Right.
There's no need for this, right?
Right.
When they don't do that, they are at fault. I think even more at fault, because they have no excuse whatsoever. That is the truth for anybody that knows that your friend is about to inject a product into their children that they never investigated, that your children are healthier and running circles around the other kids on the baseball team because those kids are suffering a brain injury they don't know about. You are living a life of healthier food and truth and freedom. You believe in a freedom that your neighbor is about to give up out of fear. They've bought into the fear. It is not only something you should do, it's something you have to do. You have now got to get involved with waking up your friends, your neighbors, your family members before they do something catastrophic, either to somebody else, themselves, or our nation. And when I think about, this time and the importance of what we're doing, I've been reading, you go back and look at our history of the founding fathers, and people will say to me, Del, you're being censored, and YouTube is censoring you. It's true. And Facebook, they're pulling down my videos. I'm worried about it. Not because what they're doing to me, that I'm having trouble getting the information out. But you know what I say to myself? Our founding fathers, that were writing, doctrines on freedom, we're having to write them on paper. They hand to hand it, neighbor to neighbor. And amongst those neighbors could have been a spy or a British soldier that can walk into your house and sleep in any bed they want, and you have no control over it. And you're handing it to people that are uneducated, and you have your name written on it. And yet they still mounted the most powerful statement against the greatest armada that ever lived and won. And I think about those handfuls of signatures on the bottom of the Declaration of Independence. These men that signed their names and basically said, that's right. That's my name. You know where to find me. And I am going to stand for freedom, even if you take it from my life. This is that moment, man. This is that moment.
This is that moment. And do you think, Del, that if the moment is presented to this country, forget about the world, I'm talking about the United States, where the suggestion is presented that this vaccine is going to be mandatory, and if you don't take it, your freedoms are going to be taken away from you. And I'm not trying to be some crazy, no, I'm not trying to speak that way right now. I'm speaking about the country in general, where that's the point where everybody says, you know what? No, I'm not willing to go that far. Do you think that this country is going to stand up for those values and not capitulate?
That's the $1 million question. I don't know if you remember the film Braveheart, but I think about one scene a lot. Do you remember that movie?
Absolutely.
In Braveheart, there's this character. He's from Ireland that's always, hanging out with Mel Gibson's character. And he keeps saying, Ireland's my island, man. Trust me, they're with me. And, he seems kind of crazy, and you keep writing him off. But there's a moment where they're finally, they got their little Scottish band of warriors on the side of a hill. They look pathetic, and they're looking at this gigantic armada of the British soldiers on the hillside. But then all of a sudden, the Irishman starts waving the flag, and a bunch of them start waving the flag on the Scottish side. And all of a sudden, all the Irishmen that were standing in the armada of the English ride out and come around and join the Scots. I believe, and I've been saying, that is going to be the moment that we will see when they decide to force an adult vaccination program. You see, it's been really easy for a lot of Americans to just say, hey, it doesn't affect me. All the single people, all of the young people, all the older people that no longer have kids, they just say, hey, What difference does it make? I had vaccines. It doesn't matter that I only had 3 to 5 and now they're getting 72, but we just didn't think about it. And I've known this as I travel the country. I will tell you 9 out of 10 cab drivers ask me what I do. I tell them what I do, and 9 out of 10 of them will say, over my dead body, you're going to inject me with something I do not need. I've been living plenty of time without it. There's no way they're going to give me a vaccine. And I tell them, then you better start voting, bro, and you better wake up because they're coming for you. Well, there's going to be a reality check over this COVID-19 vaccine because they are going to go after every adult. And it's only the beginning of you being bent over for hundreds, if not thousands, of injections through the rest of your life. That is the future plan for you. Will there be enough people that wake up? Will there be so much harm that they've robbed us of so much of our finances and our jobs that we'll be so beaten down that we just say, fine, inject me just so I can go back to work? Maybe. I mean, that seems to be part of the play, right? Destroy our lives so that somehow, like Stockholm Syndrome, we actually end up loving our captors and doing whatever they want to do to us as though they're saving us. But the truth is I still believe, and what gets me up in the morning is that every single day we are growing in mass, My own talk show that discusses these issues once a week has gone from being viewed by hundreds of thousands of people a week to millions in just the last 3 months of COVID-19. Because as we said, people are finally slowed down. They're finally looking at what's happening. And so that's why we have got to take this opportunity with those of us that are in the know and have known the truth. We've got to take this incredible gift that's been handed to us by the greedy and powerful, hungry morons that are attempting this coup. We need to take this opportunity because this is what I believe. I think this is a gift. I think they've absolutely overstepped themselves. I think it's obvious to anybody that still has a brain cell in their head. And if you think your friend can get it and there's enough brain cells, give it every effort you got to get to them. But here's the point. If we cannot win this now, if we cannot win our body autonomy, our liberty, and our right to freedom once again, the way our founding fathers, if we can't do it right now in the midst of COVID-19 and this ridiculous false pandemic, and by the way, they're about to start in Colorado. They've already launched the first attack on the medical exemption so they can force the COVID-19 vaccine in Colorado. They ran a bill on Sunday. They met on Sunday, hoping that no one would know that they were trying to rob you of your freedom. If we cannot win this now, and I said this to Bobby Kennedy, a very good friend of mine in this battle, I said, Bobby, if we can't win this now, we were never going to win it. It's just that simple. This is our moment. We have been handed a gigantic gift. And what I mean is, you've been watching me fight this gigantic power. It's the Goliath of all Goliaths. The only way the little guy ever beats the big guy is they have to get enraged. We've been poking this bear, hoping it would make a mistake, that it would overstep. And I believe that that's what they've done. By trying to make a pandemic out of what appears to now be just a basic flu, and every number is showing it. By screaming pandemic before they had a vaccine available. I kind of think that if you look at it mathematically, there was a plan in place. But I believe that plan was supposed to come with a vaccine that was ready to go, like Ebola or Zika. But instead, they ran on the first opportunity they have. I think opportunism is what jumped in here. They saw this little panic in China, and Bill Gates said, we don't have time. The people are waking up too fast. We must enslave them now, and I know this COVID-19 is a joke, but trust me, with enough advertising and enough funding, we can force the world into compliance. And they went for it. And the fact that they're 6 to 12 months away from a rushed vaccine to get there says to me they jumped their own gun by 6 to 12 or 18 months. That is the greatest advantage we were ever going to get. And now they're bumbling like idiots as we are pointing out in social media all around the world what idiots they are. They're trying to pick up after the last mistake by making another mistake. They are on complete tilt. We win this. They are rocked back. You're in a fight. They're staggering. You've got to keep swinging. We win this if we keep swinging.
One of the things that I've been trying to point out, and I don't do politics on the show, Del. You know this. I don't do politics on the show. I love the conspiracy of politics, though, because that's the gift that keeps on giving, no matter what. And I don't view this as a red or a blue issue. I don't know how to view Big Pharma if it's a red or a blue issue. I do know that we are going through this on a world scale, which is not a red or a blue issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole different situation, isn't it?
Yes, but it is something that is fascinating, and I don't get involved in politics either. This is a science discussion.
Right.
But I will say, because politicians are the ones that are going to pass the laws that are going to force you to be vaccinated, that you need to be aware that there does seem to be party division on this conversation. In Colorado, that was just exemplified by a 7-4 vote to rename the religious and philosophical exemption to begin tracking anybody that wants to skip vaccines, and also to be able to read you a riot act if you want to not vaccinate. People think it looks like a weak bill, but it's the exact same way California started its march to the forced vaccine program. But the 7-4 vote was 7 Democrats and 4 Republicans against it. And this has been the case as I travel the country. It has got me dismayed, because I'm telling you that as a once lifelong progressive liberal. And I will tell you that Bobby Kennedy, who I work with, is incredibly disillusioned by the idea that we can't seem to get environmentalists to understand that the very toxic chemicals you're trying to keep out of the air and your food and your water is being injected straight into you through vaccines. So there's a political problem, and I can't figure out what it is exactly. But it's something you have to be aware of, because though I'm not going to recommend any politicians or anyone for you, your vote and who you put in office will decide whether you get forcibly vaccinated next year or not.
Now, and it's also true that Big Pharma and that lobby effort, that is a full-on red and blue machine, too, as well.
Yes, it is. They're in everybody's pocket.
They're in everybody's pocket.
Yes.
Del, can I get you to hang on for some overtime?
All right. Okay.
Am I twisting your arm? What a great conversation.
A little bit, but I'm enjoying it. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. There's too much left on the table here, so we're going to take a break. And I'm going to calm everybody down here in Twitter that is going, oh, don't end this now. Okay, we're not ending this now. Del's going to hang on. We're going to go into overtime next after this break. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. By the way, you can follow Del at Del Bigtree on Twitter. We've got everything up. And his website, of course, thehighwire.com. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. It is overtime. Overtime with Del Bigtree. What an amazing conversation tonight. And you know what, Del? I think about all of the, well, not our network affiliates, but all the other live streaming that we do of this broadcast. And it goes out all over the place. And just wondering, you know, having Del Bigtree in the title or the, you know, the subject of this conversation is going to lead to some censorship. And you know what? It's about pushing those boundaries. So let's see what happens overnight tonight. It's going to be interesting. I'm willing to take a bullet for this. But one of the things that we were talking about before the break is the reaction on a national scale, where so many, I expect, are going to put their foot down and go, well, wait a minute here. I'm not giving up personal freedoms for this. It may be a concern, but no, you know, there needs to be a line in the sand drawn. And I have comparisons to, you know, right now the talk is, you know, defunding, you know, police departments across the country. And when it comes to some of the things that are going on with a mandatory vaccine, I don't think we can defund the government, right? But what about it's a possibility. But what about a national vote? Could this be put to a vote where, you know, let's talk about it, because the politicians are already elected. They're already in place. But what's the alternative for the voice of America, right? Could it be put to a national vote?
Yeah, if we had a government that actually cared about the people it represents. But I think that everyone on any side really sees the government as being incapable of really protecting the people and more interested in its, industrial ties and lobbies. And so, sure, there's lots of things we could vote on, but are we ever going to get the opportunity? I think we're going to get less and less opportunity to vote on issues like this. And it's really, I think it's important to talk about how are they going to get away with a forced COVID-19 vaccine. They're not going to come out of nowhere. It's not going to be, you're going to be out there in the middle of the summer surfing in California and, and by the way, California flip-flopped, like 2 weeks ago, they said it's going to be 3 months more of lockdown. But I think Gavin Newsom said, holy cow, look at Texas is having a blast. Governor Abbott there has got his, all of his stores open. Everybody is running around, dining, whining, having a great time. I've got a traffic jam of people leaving California and heading to Texas. And how am I going to explain that if they do fine and we keep everybody locked down? So you watched him waver, right? And they're starting to open up California. Well, they have a real problem, right? We now know that polls are showing that 30% of America, you'll hear it the other way. The headline says 70% of America would take a coronavirus vaccine, but that means 30% would not. That's the largest number, if you want to call them anti-vaxxers, because they simply don't think they need this vaccine. That's what they will do. They'll label you an anti-vaxxer, even though you probably had every other vaccine, just don't want this one stupid vaccine. But 30% of the population right now, how much is that going to grow as people recognize, oh my God, the honeymoon is over, and I actually really did just lose my job. My business really did go out of business. I really can't put food on the table. And then, and this was all because of what? And what were the exact numbers? 0.26% is going to get to be a more and more difficult pill to swallow for more and more people in this country. But what are they going to do? They're already telling you what they're going to do, Jimmy. They're talking about it's going to be the spike, right? Or the second wave, right? Mm-hmm. That's what is being planned, is a second wave. Now, it really, in many ways, goes against the natural structure of every other coronavirus and flu that there would be a second wave, because every other flu and coronavirus at this point, we've achieved herd immunity. We've done that every single year since the dawn of man. Now, whether you got a flu shot or not, the flu goes away, and some people get the flu, they're now immune, others get vaccines, however you want to look at it, but that is the cycle of how things work. So the question is, will America lock itself down again the next time Tony Fauci starts screaming wolf on top of the mountain? And that is where we will really know where we're at. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that 30%, and I think it'll be even more by then, but if simply 30% say, no, bull crap, I'm not an idiot. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, let's just say that's not going to happen. I think that's really the question. And if we're not locked down, then we don't need a vaccine, right? And so a lot of this is what I think they're trying to figure out how to play this. Who is that, though? And I'm running through, I'm talking out loud here, Jimmy, because this is what we're discussing with the people around me that I work with. How are they going to pull that off? Because we know for a fact now that most of the top German scientists have all put out a paper that the government is now having to accept that says the lockdown didn't work. It was totally unnecessary. The death rate was lower. It's even below the flu in many of their circumstances. So I don't think Germany is going to lock down again. Sweden won't need to, because it definitely got herd immunity, because it just let the thing run around. So did South Korea and Taiwan. There's other nations that didn't do a very good job of locking down. The UK will probably have herd immunity. So I don't think what happens, are we because of a political issue? Because we want Donald Trump out? Is that playing in? I hear all of those questions. But right. How are they going to get away with it, Jimmy? How are they going to get us to lock down again when they've lost so much credibility? We may be suckers, and there may be a lot of stupid people amongst us, but I don't think there's enough stupid people to do this again. And if they can't do it again, how are they going to make me think I need a COVID-19 vaccine? I just don't see it happening.
No, there's two concerns here that are bigger than anything else. No matter what, people still need to feed their families, and they have to have a roof over their head. You can't. One time, giving it up for the team, right? One time is one thing, but to do it for the rest of forever, that's a whole nother situation altogether, and nobody's going to do that. I don't think that it's going to happen a second time. And then there's one other thing. I would love your comment on that. But there's a second point here. If we're talking about a mandatory vaccine, who's going to pay for it? Are you saying a mandatory vaccine that you're telling me that I have to pay for times 100 million? That you're going to take that kind of money back out of the economy after the economy's been shut down for 6 months? It doesn't make any sense, Del.
Well, I think you have to assume that those government officials, they're going to use this as a massive power grab of the human body and your existence and power over you and your health. I'm pretty sure they'd be smart enough to not charge you for it the first time. They'll get around to charging you on the second, third, 100th vaccine. But this first one, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a freebie for everybody. But these are the issues. But I really want to make sure, Jimmy, because we haven't covered it. And since this entire thing is about a COVID-19 vaccine, I really want people that are listening to understand the science behind what we're talking about. I said earlier, this is one of the most dangerous vaccines ever attempted. Let me explain what I mean, because I have investigated this thing, and it's terrifying. Since about 2005, when we had the SARS coronavirus, multiple drug companies have been attempting to make a coronavirus vaccine. Suddenly, because of SARS and MERS, we realized that coronavirus could be a cash cow, and it might mutate in a way that those did, that we could really have people that are terrified and sell a vaccine. Well, when we looked into this, there were 4 major drug companies that went into animal trials since 2005 and been working on a coronavirus vaccine. One of them actually is by a famous doctor that does a lot of talking on CNN named Dr. Peter Hotez. He's been attempting a coronavirus vaccine. Well, here's the issue. When they went into animal trials, they were using ferrets, and these were 4 competing drug companies, all had a different approach towards the vaccine over the last couple of decades. And in every circumstance that we found an animal trial on it, specifically 4 that I talked about on my show, they had a problem. And here's what it was. When they gave the vaccine to the ferrets, it looked like it was safe because the ferrets did just fine. They had no reactions, so they said, oh, goody. Well, the vaccine doesn't hurt them. That's a good start. And then they measured the antibodies, which is the part of this discussion we always hear about, right? Immunity is linked to antibodies. Well, the animals started having a very robust production of antibodies. So I'm sure the scientists in every one of these drug companies was jumping up and down. Oh, my God, it looks like it's working. There is only one problem. In the animal studies, you can go one step further than you're ethically allowed to go in a human study. And that is, after you've given the vaccine to the animals, you are then allowed to put them in a cage and spray the virus on them. Right now, that is illegal to do to a human being in a trial. Well, every single one of these trials that did this, remember, 4 different companies, 4 different approaches, all had the same reaction. When the animals came in contact with the virus, they started having massive upper respiratory conditions, organ failure. They call it a cytokine storm because the antibodies they saw produced by the animals, instead of protecting the animal and fighting off the virus, it did the opposite, and it made their own immune system help the virus kill them. This is something that is now being scientifically referenced and called antibody immune enhancement. And you'll hear little murmurs when you hear Tony Fauci say, and he has said it on television, there's the potential this vaccine could make people more sick. So we don't want that to happen. He's not just randomly saying that that's true for every vaccine. He's saying very specifically, with everything we know about the attempts at this vaccine, that's exactly what happened. And in fact, when you read these trials, many of them have a giant boxed-in warning. I've never seen anything like this. And it says, warning, we should be very careful moving forward with human trials. And in one of these trials, it said the reactions in the ferrets reminded us of an RSV vaccine program several decades ago or some time ago. RSV was tested a vaccine on children. And again, the children looked like it was working very well, but something happened. When they started coming in contact with RSV, the children developed upper respiratory conditions. Every one of them got more sick having been vaccinated than they would have been had they not been vaccinated, and 2 of the children died, which ended the RSV vaccine program until, I think just last year, Bill Gates has now started one up again. There was also a similar incident about a year and a half ago with dengue vax. A dengue vaccine that was given in the Philippines did the same thing. It had been tested for safety. They believed it was safe, so they gave it to a bunch of children in the Philippines, but then when they came in contact with the dengue, the live dengue, 100 children died. The Philippines they fired their health minister and kicked the pharmaceutical company out of the country. All of this is being referenced as antibody immune enhancement. And if you listen to Peter Hotez, he will say, we don't know why it happens. I really need people to wrap their heads around this, and you got to get this information out there. They don't know why this catastrophic event has been happening in the animal trials for the last several decades of a coronavirus vaccine. Now go back to what I said, that we are putting 2 of the most dangerous words together, rushing the science. We're not just rushing any science, Jimmy. We're rushing a science that killed animals in all the animal trials. We are now skipping the animal trials and rushing into human trials with very small groups of people. And we are talking about delivering this vaccine within, Donald Trump is saying, Operation Warp Speed. It could be here by the autumn. What happens, Jimmy, if let's just take a hypothetical scenario.
Right.
First of all, you have to imagine that we know that's the one issue they're trying to figure out, right? Does the vaccine cause antibody immune enhancement? Well, what if every one of these trials is simply looking at one mutation, a specific mutation of COVID-19? That's what they're using in your lab. So let's say for some reason their vaccine at Moderna or AstraZeneca manages to go through the trials and they don't see antibody immune enhancement. And they say, look, it looks like this vaccine avoided that. We don't have this problem. Nobody had this extreme reaction. Good. Woo, we made it. We can now give it to 100 million people right away and 7.5 billion people tomorrow. But you see, we already know that the coronavirus, this one specifically, has mutated over 30 times. What happens if a mutation of COVID-19 comes out that triggers this problem with this vaccine? What if, it worked with the virus mutation you looked at, but a brand new one comes? Now, this mutation was going to be just as deadly as COVID-19 was, about a 0.26% death rate. But now that you're vaccinated, now that 7.5 billion people were forced to get this vaccine, the death rate is no longer 0.26. Everyone vaccinated, 10% of them are dropping dead in the streets, or maybe 20% or 50%. I know this sounds diabolical and crazy, but this is so scientifically possible based on what we know with their attempts at coronavirus vaccines. Can you imagine? And this is what I want people to know. We have never seen a virus or a bacteria wipe out the human species since the dawn of man. It has never happened. Whether you believe in God and divine design, or you believe in Darwinism and the fact that you've evolved with these viruses and your body's learned to deal with them. However you look at it, nothing has ever even trimmed down this species. We have constantly grown as a population because our bodies are so good at dealing with viruses and bacteria. But it is possible that if mankind becomes too arrogant and forces a product on everyone on the planet that has an error that they thought they'd fixed, that makes all of us more susceptible and possibly makes a virus that was just like a common cold now deadly, not for 0.26%, but 70, 80, or 90%. Jimmy, this vaccine has the potential of ending the human species.
Now, let me ask you, Del, with your description on animal testing, are you suggesting that the only way to do a scientific confirmation with humans is to spray us with the live virus after we've had the vaccine?
That's the only way you could honestly say that the vaccine is effective. Now, I'm not saying you should do that. Normally, you would have enough time to test a product through several seasons, and you would know that the area people lived in, they were probably coming in contact with. That's how they do it, right?
Right.
But they're not, when you're rushing something in 12 to 18 months, the only way they can say it works is they have to see that the people came in contact with it and didn't get it. And if you are watching the articles right now, they're moving the trials for the British, AstraZeneca vaccine. They're moving it out of the UK over to Brazil. Because why? Because the virus is disappearing. It's already naturally disappearing in the UK, so they have no way of knowing if their test group is going to come in contact with it, so they won't be able to say it was effective. And it's going to be disappearing in Brazil. Think about how insane this is. Their problem is that we are healing and overcoming COVID-19 so quickly that they won't be able to even test if their vaccine works.
Now, and there's another spin to this, too, as well. That when you do a press release, well, of course, and then flip-flop on it, but when you do a press release that people that aren't showing any symptoms, they don't even know that they have it, but they do have it and they're spreading it. What kind of message is that to send? It doesn't even sound accurate or truthful. It goes against the grain of common sense, doesn't it?
There's a lot of this discussion that goes against the grain of common sense. I mean, I've been calling the vaccine unicorn, right? This is something that doesn't exist, that all science wants to believe they'll be able to find. But if you really look at this virus, it's a unicorn itself. So many of the reports from WHO, we're not sure that your antibodies create immunity. It may be that getting this virus doesn't give you immunity. I mean, Jimmy, when I read that, I think you need to tell me that this is going to be the first virus in the history of mankind that once you catch this mild virus, you actually don't get immunity. That'd be the first time ever. I mean, look, I suppose it's possible, like a 1 in a million shot, but then also not only do you not get, it also has this feature where people that have no symptoms are the ones, the super spreaders, they're spreading it. So for the first time ever, people that have no effect are the ones that are spreading it everywhere. And for the first time, I mean, there's so many first times for this incredible unicorn virus we've discovered. You know what I mean? It just defies reason. And if you sit and wait for about, I always think about everywhere anyone lives, they say, if you don't like the weather, then wait for 5 minutes, it'll change. That's basically how the science around this has been. They'll put headlines on CNN and MSNBC and Fox and New York Times, and then the very next day say the exact opposite thing. New York Times isn't getting censored. I'm getting censored for calling out the fact that they've been wrong on these things. But New York Times doesn't get censored, or CNN, for stating some of the most stupid points that defy all reason altogether and would have made this virus something like we never could have imagined. But then, luckily, science proves, we were overreacting. Actually, you do get immunity. You know what? Asymptomatic carriers doesn't look like it's 80% of people. Maybe it's just 20%. But you know where the science is going, and we're about to run out of time, and people want to see, because I'm going to keep reporting this on the Highwire.com, but there are really fascinating studies going on right now. And what it looks like is happening is that the reason so many people are not having a problem with COVID-19 is because this virus is very vulnerable to what is called our T cells. We always hear about antibodies, but there's 2 parts to your immune system. And if you think of your T cell response, that's like your soldiers that are outside your walled city, right? They try to stop the military, the army that's coming at you from ever getting to the wall and trying to climb over it. Well, if they get past them, then the T cells will alert the soldiers inside your cell, inside your walled city. That's your antigens that start creating antigens to try and stop it from infiltrating the cell. Well, what science is now showing us is that the T cell response is so profound by so many people, that's why you don't have any symptoms. It may not be getting to the place where you are creating antibodies. And furthermore, there's a lot of science that's showing that there's a learning, that your T cells, they call it cross-reactivity. And I'm telling you, these are huge studies all around the world right now, is showing that people who never had COVID-19 appear to have T cells that already are immune to COVID-19. And the reason for that is because these people had a cold last year. They had a coronavirus last year, and their immunity from that experience is creating immunity against COVID-19. And some of these numbers, I'm telling you, these are theories. Let me be clear. These are theories, but these are really top scientists. I just heard a brilliant scientist that is world-renowned say our prior immunity to COVID-19 may be as high as 80% of the world's population is already immune before they ever came in contact with it, which would mean this thing to get to herd immunity is only going to affect 20% of us. There's a possibility that only 20% of us aren't already able to fight it off.
Now, okay, and we're almost out of time. I got 3 minutes left, Del.
Okay.
With all of this coronavirus testing that has gone on, by the way, I got tested. It doesn't really mean much. I tested negative, but it was a month and a half ago. But with where is the data from all of the testing? I haven't heard. Have you seen any results of the testing in the United States?
No, and in fact, that's what really started infuriating me. I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago when we really started seeing that the death rate was dropping down to almost nothing, below 1%, less than 0.5%, down to 0.3, 0.4, 0.2. And Deborah Birx was asked about this, and she totally skirted the question. And she just said, we don't have enough data to understand the infection rate as it pertains to the death rate. And yes, we are looking at how the models have fallen apart, but we just don't have data. She kept saying we don't have data. And I thought to myself, millions of people around the world have now been affected. Almost every continent on the world has had this illness. Every hospital has got it in their hospital, and everybody is doing blood tests and nasal swabs. If millions of people with a disease that has wrapped the world is not producing enough data for you to understand this, will you please step down now and say, I am a clueless moron.
Right.
I'm incapable of doing actual science.
Right. And that I'm just scratching my head. I'm like, aren't I a part of the database now? Right? I got tested.
Yes.
I'm negative.
So did I.
There was 1,000 cars in line that day. I did a drive-up test. Okay, I'm exaggerating. 700 cars. And where's that data? I'm just wondering where the statements are. Del, thank you so much. Now, the Highwire and your show, it's thehighwire.com. When do you guys do your stuff, and when is the new episodes released?
We go live every week, 11 a.m. Pacific time. We got a gigantic show. Going to break some new science out, but we're always at 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you go to thehighwire.com, you can see our archive of now 166 episodes so far. Lots of people like to watch it on Facebook and YouTube because of the interaction that happens there, so you can find that. Just go to @DelBigtree, use the @ or type in The Highwire with Del Bigtree. Yes, you have to type it all out because the computers are not going to help you find me in any way. You got to nail it like a bow and arrow. You got to hit that bullseye. But luckily, millions of you are figuring out how to find me, and we're going to keep delivering the truth.
Del, you are the very best, man. I love hanging out with you. I can't wait to see you again when all of this is over, and we'll break some bread once again. Thank you so much, Del.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thanks for being brave. Keep up the good work.
You're the best. Del Bigtree. And thehighwire.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Also, we can't forget about vaxedthemovie.com. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow Del right there on Twitter at Del Bigtree. With that, I'm going to go straight to the credits because Del and I just went wire to wire. Thehighwire.com. You got that? Did you pick up on that? Faded Black's executive producers, Rita Camurian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitello, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, right here, Bruce R. Fenton, Human Hybrids. Very special thanks to Del Bigtree. Until tomorrow night, I want everybody to be safe. Go back, Lee Tappy.